Blue Jays on Sportsnet. Presented by the all-new 2017 Ridgeline, our newest vehicle and their newest fan. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome to Rogers Center. It's Junior Jays Saturday. Always a lot of kids on hand, a lot of activities inside and outside the ballpark today. On a beautiful afternoon, it's 24 degrees at the start of play. The roof is open. The Minnesota Twins, they had a tough stretch. They have lost 8 straight games. That's the longest losing streak active in the majors, and they have won just 3 of their last 11 here at Rogers Center. Let's take a look at their lineup. They're 49 and 79, 30 games under 500. Top of the order, Brian Dozier. He's had a rough stretch against the Blue Jays, just 1 for 21. And he has 4 strikeouts. He hasn't done much at all against the Blue Jays. Down in the bottom, Eduardo Escobar. He's done a terrific job for this ball club. Escobar back at shortstop this afternoon. His last 9 games, 367 with a double, 3 RBIs, and 3 walks.
They will be facing Marcus Stroman. Marcus getting ready for his 26th start of the season. He pitched into the 8th inning in his last start for the first time since July the 20th at Arizona. That last start was against Cleveland. Unfortunately, left with the lead. Bullpen coughed it up. He picked up another no decision. He's had 11 no decisions this year, still 9-5 with a 447 earned run average. And what has returned for him has been the strikeouts. 12 strikeouts per 9 innings in August, which leads all of baseball. In fact, just 1 walk and 17 strikeouts over his last 2 starts. His breaking ball has been much better.
Yeah, the walks has really been limited by Marcus, and he certainly is always going to get ground balls. He gets more ground balls than anybody, and that'll be a key for the infielders today. Dozier is in the box. Marcus Stroman is set. Here's the first pitch of the game. It is in there for a strike, and we are underway. Another good crowd on hand. They had their 30th sellout of the season last night with 42,532 here at Rogers Center. Fly ball down the left side is his fair. It's a homer. This is a foul ball. Dozier got that high breaking ball and just missed hitting a home run.
Well, you mentioned he's 1 for 21 against the Blue Jays this year, but he's got some power. 30 home runs, 28 of them as a second baseman. And he is always looking to hook that ball and yank it to left field. The Blue Jays are going to play 3 infielders on the left side of the infield against Dozier. That one looked like it was close.
Just a long strike. 0-2 pitch. Just fouled on the right side. He stayed on that outside pitch. Might have hit it right off the end of the bat. Checking the status of that bat, making sure it's not cracked.
He comes in here a hot hitter. Started this series hitting .310 in the month of August. 7 doubles, 2 triples, and 11 home runs. One of the highest OPSs in baseball in the month of August.
We mentioned 1 for 21 for Dozier. That first hit came in his first at bat. So he's 0 for 20 after that first at bat against the Blue Jays this season. That was back on May 19th.
I remember that. He yanked the ball into left field for a base hit, and I'm like, wow, he's going to get going.
That's foul just wide of the bag at third base. Manny Gonzalez, the third base umpire, had a good look at it.
You know what the Blue Jays have done to Brian Dozier? They have pitched him hard stuff away. And again, he's trying to hook the ball and trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark. In left field, they have given him a lot of fastballs away, and he's hit a lot of fly balls.
What I would do right now is bounce a breaking ball. Looks like he's swinging at everything. Just throw one in the dirt and see if he'll chase it. Looks like they're coming in. Good movement on that pitch. 95 with the fastball. Josh Tolle is catching Marcus Stroman this afternoon. Tolle will be back there tomorrow with R.A. Dickey on the mound for the Jays. Wow, that's a pretty good pitch. Looked like it caught the outside corner, but Stroman didn't get the call.
Tough one to take right there for Brian Dozier. There is Russell. You're right. He's got today off and tomorrow with the knuckleballer.
Ground ball. That's going to find the hole on the right side for Dozier. Just his second hit against the Blue Jays this season. Take a look at the Blue Jays defensively. They've been charged with 87 errors this season, among the best in baseball. It's Upton, Pilar back in center, and Michael Saunders back in right. On the infield, it's Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Devin Travis, and Edwin Encarnacion. Josh Tolley doing the catching this afternoon for Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, that's good to see. Blue Jays are starting to get some of the regulars back. Devin Travis, his first start on this homestand in his familiar position at second base.
There goes Dozier, not wasting any time. The throw from Tolley's a good one, but the tag a little bit late as Dozier snuck his hand underneath the glove of Travis, picks up his 11th stolen base.
It's only been thrown out 2 times this year, and if the throw was just a little bit lower, I think they had a shot. Dozier goes on first movement. Josh Tolley makes a good throw, but you can see it's just a little bit too high, and by the time Travis pulls that ball down, Dozier's got his hand on the bag.
So the Twins have a runner in scoring position. Minnesota actually led the game last night. They had a first inning home run from Trevor Plouffe. Joe Mauer did not play in the game last night. He's dealing with a sore quad muscle. Mauer making his 83rd start at first base, no longer a catcher, batting .276 for the season. There's a fly ball to left field. Upton, he's got room. Dozier's going to second, the tag. Here's the throw from Upton. He's got a strong arm, not in time. Brian Dozier saw the ball was going to be caught on the warning track and alertly went back to tag up.
Well, you've got to have some speed to be able to tag up on a fly ball to the left field, and Dozier, nothing to lose. Stay aggressive. Love to see that. Mauer drives this ball away from him to left field, and Dozier at the top of your screen right there reads that it's going to be to the warning track. Not much that Upton can do to get that aggressive play by Dozier. Now the runners at third base with less than 2 outs.
This is Max Kepler. Kepler hit 5th in the lineup last night. He's moved up to the 3rd spot. Kepler had a base hit, a sac fly. He walked and scored a run. This is popped up over near the Blue Jays dugout. Tolley giving chase, and it'll be into the dugout, out of play. Well, Marcus Stroman pitching with a runner at third base and 1 out, trying to get Kepler here. The infield is back early in this game. Basically straight away on the infield, almost straight away in the outfield for Kepler. Good breaking ball.
Well, they need a strikeout right here, either a pop-up or a strikeout, and Stroman's been doing that lately. He had 9 strikeouts last game against Cleveland. Cleveland's a team that doesn't strike out a lot. They give up good at-bats and put the ball in play, but he had 9 strikeouts pitching into the 8th inning.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Gets away from Tolley, and Dozier's going to score. Ball in the dirt, gets away from Josh Tolley, and Dozier, after singling, stealing second, and he advanced on the fly ball, has given Minnesota a 1-0 lead.
Boy, that is unfortunate. You got a strikeout pitcher on the mound. Kepler would not go after that pitch in the dirt, and Josh Tolley cannot block it. Ball stays down, hits the dirt, stays down, and Dozier is going to score the game's first run.
Ball was in the dirt. It'll be a wild pitch charge to Stroman. Looked like Tolley missed that ball, hit the umpire, Chad Fairchild.
Minnesota is going to manufacture a run right here, and watch the reaction from Marcus Stroman, upset with himself that that ball bounced, and then they were not able to block it, to keep that run from scoring. A little single through the right side, stolen base, tag, and then scores on a wild pitch. So they manufacture the game's first run.
Minnesota scored 8 runs in the game last night on 9 hits, and they've been averaging almost 6 runs a game in their last 23 road games.
Yeah, offense has not been a problem for Minnesota.
This is a bounding ball towards second. Kepler runs well just in time. He thought he beat it. He turned quickly and pointed to the dugout to suggest he was on the base before Encarnacion caught the ball.
Yeah, he's not going to move, and he's going to ask his manager to take a look at this one.
He can really run.
Yes, he can. One more time.
Boy, that is as close as you can get. The rule, because of the replay, has been changed to as soon as it touches the inside of that glove, that's to determine that it's a catch. And if that's the case, I think they will uphold the call on the field.
There's just not enough evidence to overturn this call. He was called out on the field. And Paul Molitor's still waiting to get an answer what they want to do.
So they will not ask for the review. Kepler is out 4-3 on the ground out, 2 away now. This is Trevor Plouffe. He's back over at third base this afternoon. Played first base in last night's game. Plouffe homered in the first inning with 2 outs. He had a sac fly in the third inning.
You know, you were talking about the offense for Minnesota. That hasn't been a problem for them. They scored 8 runs yesterday and lost. That's the second time they've scored at least 8 runs in their last 15 games and lost a ball game. They've been giving up way too many runs. They got their best pitcher on the mound this afternoon.
Indeed they do, with Irvin Santana going to the mound for Minnesota. The veteran has pitched a lot against the Blue Jays in the past. 0-2 count to Trevor Plouffe. 2 outs, a run in for Minnesota here in the top half of the first. Stroman's got a little better fastball this afternoon than we've seen lately.
Yeah, I like that he's using it up. That was designed because everything has been down. His sinker and his slider have been down. Every now and then you got to take a shot up.
Slider off the plate. That slider will be 87 to 89. The curveball is a little bit slower than that. He'll throw his fastball 93 with the 2-seamer and 95 with the 4-seamer. Ground ball through the left side. That's a base hit. Another ground ball, but this one finds a hole.
He actually missed his spot. They wanted that ball away, and the ball leaked back out over the plate. Plouffe had a big game yesterday. He starts off this afternoon with a base hit. Watch where they wanted this ball and how it just leaks back up and over the middle of the plate.
Both Dozier and Plouffe with hits here in the first inning. For Dozier, his first hit in 7 at-bats. For Plouffe, his first hit in 6 at-bats against Stroman. This is Eddie Rosario, center fielder. We saw Rosario last night have good at-bats all night long. Really a tough out, puts the bat on the ball. He finished up 2 for 3 with a walk, scored a couple of runs, and had a double.
He had the one great at bat against Liriano. Liriano, left-handed pitcher, tough on lefties. Rosario, left-handed batter, just kept fouling balls off. I believe it was an 11-pitch at bat against Liriano.
This one's going to reach the seats down the left side, out of play. Yeah, he's got a very unique hitting style. He kind of lays the bat flat and just uses his hand to go to the baseball.
Right on top of the plate, too. I don't know where a good place to pitch him. Maybe try inside because he's so far on the plate. Looking at just the raw numbers suggests that you got to pitch him up. He's hitting just 130 on high fastballs this year.
Ball and 2 strikes now to Rosario.
This is what I mean about getting tough to pitch him. He's right on top of the plate, covering that inside pitch, almost daring you to throw the ball in there. I think you got to go upstairs against him.
There it is. He went upstairs. He gets the strikeout. First strikeout on the afternoon for Stroman. But Minnesota breaks out on top. They score a run on 2 hits. Irvin Santana will take them out when we come back. First inning, he gave up a run on a couple of singles, a stolen base, and a wild pitch allowed Minnesota. And there goes the veteran Russell Martin down in the tunnel. Wonder if that's coincidental or if he was on a mission. Take a look at the lineup for the Blue Jays. Jose Bautista back in the lineup. Josh Donaldson against the starter for Minnesota, Irvin Santana. 5 for 17 with a pair of doubles and 2 home runs. And down in the 7th spot, Melvin Upton Jr., after a slow start with the Blue Jays, has really turned it up a notch. .318 over his last 12 games with 5 extra base hits and 8 RBIs, and they're set to take on the veteran Irvin Santana.
Blue Jays know all about Irvin Santana. He comes into this game their best pitcher and their hottest pitcher. 1.72 ERA over his last 10 starts. He's 6-10 with a very respectable .333 earned run average. He signed a 4-year contract with the Twins in December of 2014, so he's finishing up his 2nd year with them. Blue Jays know all about him. 19th career start versus the Blue Jays. 2nd time they've seen him this year. He's got a losing record, but he's got a very good ERA against the Jays.
And Bautista takes the first pitch strike. Jose's got a couple of home runs against Santana. He's 9 for 32 for his career. 226 on the season for the Blue Jays DH this afternoon. Bautista scored a pair of runs in last night's game. He walked, had a double. Had 2 hits. He was 2 for 4 with that walk. Ground ball. Escobar at short, throws out Bautista, 1 away. Let's take a look at the defense for Minnesota. They committed 2 more errors last night. They've committed 98 errors for the season. Danny Santana is in left field. Rosario's in center and Max Kepler is in right. Terrific athlete out in right field. Plouffe back at third. He played first last night. Escobar and Dozier up the middle. Joe Mauer at first and behind the plate. Juan Centeno doing the catching for Irvin Santana.
Mr. Minnesota back in the lineup for the Twins this afternoon. That's Joe Mauer. Missed the last couple of games with a sore quad, like you were saying. Back in there this afternoon at first base. Boy, he can hit. He missed his bat yesterday.
He has the 5th highest active batting average in the majors at .310. Despite the fact he's hitting .270 this season. Donaldson 0-1. Now 2-0. Excuse me. 2 balls and no strikes. Josh hit his 30th home run of the season last night. He has homered in back-to-back games.
And that's now back-to-back seasons for Josh Donaldson of at least 30 home runs.
At 41 last year in his first season with the Blue Jays when he won the American League MVP award.
He is showing some signs. We were talking about that last night. Showing some signs that he's starting to be a little bit more consistent at the plate, drive the ball.
There's a good slider from Santana. It's now 2-2. But I think the consistency or the lack thereof has to deal with his physical well-being. He's been beat up a few times this year. Had a hand problem on 2 different occasions. He's had calf problems and leg issues.
Yeah, had that thigh problem. Remember when he got drilled by Liam Hendricks early in the season? Calf problem in April. The thumb problems. He's had to come out of a couple of games this year because of the right thumb problems.
David Price got in his kitchen back in Boston early in the season, and recently in New York, CC Sabathia did the same. Full count. Ball 4. Josh Donaldson, another walk. He's been terrific this season. He said it's because he just has a better eye in the fact that pitchers are very careful in the way they attack him. For Donaldson, his 83rd walk of the season.
Well, you got to pick on somebody. They got a very tough middle of the lineup. If you don't want to pitch to Donaldson, well, then you got to put him on first base, and you got to deal with this guy. And look at the numbers that Edwin has put up this year in 126 games.
Leads the American League with 102 RBIs, and excuse me swing as he taps it up the first baseline. Nolan Arenado of the Colorado Rockies leads the majors. He's really been hot this month. He has 108 ribbies now. A pandemonium of parrots here at Rogers Center today. Every time Edwin swings the bat, those parrots are on alert. They want to see the Edwin. Ah! 0-2. Edwin has a pair of home runs against Santana. Just 6 hits in 23 at bats.
I think he went deep against him earlier this season, didn't he? In Tiger at Target Field. Might have been the difference in the ball game when the Blue Jays faced him in those 4 games in Minnesota.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Foul ball. We're going to talk about the RBI leaders in the majors. Arenado of the Colorado Rockies with 108. We saw Albert Pujols pick up his 100th RBI here. David Ortiz now has 100. Daniel Murphy, what a season Murphy's had. Got 25 home runs and 98 RBIs for the Nationals.
People are talking about him getting MVP votes. The type of season that he has had. 98 ribbies. Albert Pujols, what is that, 13 straight seasons now? 13 seasons in his career that he's knocked in at least 100 runs.
Nationals have an 8-game lead over the Miami Marlins in the National League East Division. Here's the 1-2 inside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Santana began his career with the Los Angeles Angels. He pitched 8 seasons with the Angels. He went 96-80 over those 8 seasons. Made 233 starts as an Angel. Breaking ball lined to second. Dozier couldn't get it out of his glove cleanly. Hesitated. He thought about going to first, but once he couldn't find the handle, he decided not to make a throw.
Yeah, it makes no sense if you're not real sure of your grip on that baseball. No sense trying to throw it to first base. You might throw it away, and then the next thing you know, Donaldson's going to be in the scoring position. They had him played perfectly. Santana threw a pretty good pitch, and Edwin went down and got it, but there was Dozier standing right at second base. Didn't have to move.
Troy Tulowitzki batting cleanup this afternoon. Tulo walked twice in the game, had a single, scored a run, officially 1 for 3 in that ball game last night. Tulo had a very productive month of July, batting .308 with 6 homers and 21 ribbies. He has 3 homers and 12 RBIs this month in 19 games, but he's got his RBI total up to 64.
In the home run total at 21. So it's a big ones for him. He had a home run cut there. I think Santana has to pitch inside against the Blue Jay right-handed batters. He's trying. He tried against Donaldson. He tried against Encarnacion. First couple of pitches to Tulowitzki have been inside. You got to establish inside against these right-handed batters.
Tulowitzki waved at that breaking ball.
Because that pitch right there, if you do that, if you establish on the inner half like that with your fastball, it's going to make that slider tough. And he can control that slider. He doesn't hang it very often.
Santana pitched a no-hitter while pitching for the Angels. He no-hit the Cleveland Indians in Cleveland. Tulowitzki called out on the strike, down and away for the strikeout. Blue Jays get a walk. They strand a base runner after one. Minnesota has a 1-0 lead.
The Blue Jays plan to activate Deanna Navarro. The question is who goes, and at this point it looks as though Josh Thole will be the odd man out, but how do you get him back to catch R.A. Dickey's next start in Tampa? Well, here's a way the Blue Jays can go about doing it. If they DFA him and then send him down to a minor league affiliate whose season ends earlier than the Bison's, like Bluefield of A-ball, their season ends on Thursday. That would allow the Blue Jays to bring Thole back up with the expanded rosters and be able to catch R.A. Dickey's next start. It's not a perfect plan, guys, but they have to figure out a way to optimize their roster, and they do not want to have to use Russell Martin behind the plate with R.A. Dickey in his next start in Tampa Bay.
Now, they would certainly like to have Thole, and we don't have any idea what they're going to do to make the addition of Deanna Navarro to the roster, but there's even the possibility Blue Jays are going to make another trade or two before September 1st. So I don't think we should jump to conclusions that they've got their mind made up as to how they're going to handle this 25-man roster before we hit September 1st.
That's the key date right there, September the 1st, when rosters can expand and then there's no problems, but you have to get people into the organization. I think that's the key also. Get them into the organization so they're eligible for the playoffs if the Blue Jays make the playoffs.
This is Miguel Sano. He chops it foul. Sano's the DH, batting .238. He hit cleanup in last night's game, finished up 0 for 5 with a couple of strikeouts. He struck out twice against Liriano. That's going to reach the seats down the right side. Blue Jays made a roster move this morning. Bo Schultz rejoined the team from AAA Buffalo, and with that, Aaron Loup was sent back to AAA, the lefty. Loup pitched 2 innings in last night's game in an effort to get a fresh arm in their bullpen. Bo Schultz has been added.
That's exactly how they classify it. They needed a fresh arm down in that bullpen.
Well, it's quite the trend nowadays that when you have optionable players, it's like you have a 26, 27, 28-man roster, and nobody does it better than Buck Showalter of the Orioles. They have made a pitching addition to their bullpen in 4 straight days. They use a guy, send him back, use another guy, send him back, bring up a fresh arm. It's almost like they're playing with a 28, 29-man roster, as long as you have players that have options.
And that point was made clear and hammered home when they were in Cleveland. Ryan Tepera had some options, Aaron Loup had some options, and they've got guys, if they have to make some moves, those are the guys who are going to go up and down.
Sano strikes out on the slider. Second strikeout of the afternoon for Stroman.
This Marcus Stroman start is brought to you by BioSteel Sports Nutrition, the natural choice for everyday performance. Drink the pink.
Beautiful Saturday afternoon here in Toronto. This is Eduardo Escobar, the shortstop. He goes after the first pitch, and Encarnacion will step on the bag. 2 up, 2 down quickly here in the second.
Marcus has a good fastball this afternoon. He's got a good breaking ball. He should fare well against Minnesota. Free swinging team, and if he keeps the ball down and hits his spots, he should get plenty of ground ball outs.
Tulowitzki, as he often does when a pitcher has to cover first, comes over to give Marcus Stroman a little bit of a break so he can catch his breath. 2 outs. This is the catcher, Juan Centeno. Santana is from Puerto Rico. The Twins have a unique roster in that they are represented by 7 different countries on their 40-man roster, including Germany. Centeno, one of 4 Puerto Rican-born players on the 40-man roster for Minnesota. They have a player from South Korea, 1 from Germany, 1 from Canada, 5 from the Dominican Republic, 1 from Venezuela, and 24 from the U.S. That's the nature of baseball in this day and age. International baseball for sure. Kepler signed as a free agent at 16 years old. He was born in Berlin, Germany. And the ground ball to the right side. Encarnacion will flip to Stroman, who steps on the bat. Easy inning for Stroman. 3 up, 3 down. We'll go to the bottom of the second. Minnesota up 1-0. Pitchers who have really picked things up in the second half. You look at the second half ERA leaders in the American League. Cole Hamels of the Rangers off to a great start, as is Jake Odorizzi. He's really throwing the ball up. Corey Kluber, another great start last night, and Irvin Santana, the starter from Minnesota. He is right there among the top 4 in the American League in the second half ERA.
Very quietly, post All-Star game totals have been great. This is his 8th start. He's 3-3, 47 2/3 innings pitched. He's only given up 39 hits. He's had 41 strikeouts in that sparkling 189 earned run average. You have 7 starts like that, and you can only get 3 wins with an ERA under 2. Your offense isn't helping you out very much.
Michael Saunders back in the lineup after dealing with a hamstring issue. Saunders felt that hamstring problem on Wednesday, running the bases. He had a 3-hit game, and he felt it tighten up a bit. So he did not play on Thursday or Friday. 2-1 to Saunders. Fouls it back.
Isn't it interesting as you watch how certain teams pitch to somebody? Let's use Michael Saunders as an example. Some teams will pound him inside with fastballs. Some teams will pitch him away. Some teams will play him with 3 infielders on the right side of the infield and just 1 on the left. Some will play him straight up. Minnesota, the conventional way defensively, they're going to play him straight up.
Saunders takes one right down Broadway. One away here in the second.
Doesn't matter when you strike him out like that. Irvin Santana, let's take a look at his scouting report. It's pretty simple. It's been doing this for a long time. He's going to use his fastball and he's going to spot it. About 92.5 miles an hour. So half the time he'll go up and down, in and out with that fastball. A nice little sharp slider. He can use it as a get-me-over pitch, a strikeout pitch, and a nice little changeup. Just 3 pitches, but every one of them has a purpose. Every one of them above average, and he uses them very well together.
Santana's in his 12th season as a major league pitcher. He spent 1 year in the National League. With Atlanta, went 14-10 in that one season.
That was the year he came that close to becoming a Blue Jay. Remember that? Spring training?
Spring training, there was a lot of talk about the Blue Jays getting together and helping finance a contract for Irvin Santana. That it didn't work out. He ended up in Atlanta, then parlayed his 14-win season into a multi-year contract with the Twins.
That was the spring where Atlanta lost something like 2 or 3 starting pitchers within about 2 or 3 days, and they needed someone, and there was Irvin Santana, who was a free agent at the time, just sitting there waiting for him. They fell right into his lap.
Kevin Pillar was in the original lineup for last night's game. He was a late scratch due to flu-like symptoms. He's back in the lineup today. Inside, 3-2. Pillar received the first pitch from 7-year-old Zachy, who is a spina bifida child, and he's a friend of Pillar's. He got to throw out the first pitch. It was pretty special.
Yeah, that was really cool before today's ball game.
Pillar hits it on the ground. Booth cuts in front of the shortstop and throws Pillar out. 2 away.
Get a hit of color during Canada's Color Expert Sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Well, this is the last weekend of August as the summer is winding down. That's Butch Davis, the first base coach for the Minnesota Twins, watching the infield and outfield defense. Melvin Upton Jr. He's been swinging the bat well lately. Over his last 12 games, carries a .318 average, 5 extra base hits and 8 RBIs. Upton had 2 hits and scored a pair of runs in last night's game. He was 2 for 5. Had a 3-hit game on Thursday. Lines this one right to the shortstop. Blue Jays go down in order in the bottom of the second. We move to the third. Minnesota still holding a 1-0 lead.
2016 season ticket memberships are now available in houses for a great deal. Purchase your tickets now and you'll have a chance to purchase tickets for this year's postseason. It is a time-limited offer while supplies last. You get lots of membership benefits like enrollment into My Blue Jays program. Visit bluejays.com/season tickets for more. Guys, it's so nice we're talking about postseason tickets again.
That's always the goal, and Blue Jays have an opportunity once again to get into the postseason. They are in first place, a game out in front in the East. Danny Santana slaps at it with the bunt. Santana's 25 years old. He's a switch hitter playing left field this afternoon.
Blue Jays couldn't figure him out in that first trip to Minnesota. Hit over 400 against the Blue Jays in those 4 games. 6 for 14.
Another base hit for Santana, pulls it past Encarnacion into right. Another ground ball that finds a hole. 3 hits for Minnesota.
Yeah, nothing you can do about that. Santana's a career .333 hitter against the Blue Jays, and he finds another hole. Sinker down and away. He stays over the middle of the plate just a little bit too much. And you can see the infield in, and when they're in after that fake bunt attempt, pull in the corners, that's why you do it. Bring in the first baseman, just slap it right by him.
With that hit, Santana's now 7 for 15 here at Rogers Center, and he's thinking about running. Santana 12 for 21. That's not a very good ratio, but he's got 12 steals. Brian Dozier stole second in the first inning.
He didn't waste any time after his leadoff single.
First pitch strike. Josh Donaldson has caught 4 of 21 base stealers this season. Josh Tolle, excuse me. I said Donaldson, of course.
Used to. He used to be a catcher. You know Minnesota wants to run. They want to keep the aggressiveness that they had him with a good throw.
Yeah, Santana was making a move towards second, and Stroman makes the timely throw to first.
Boy, he flinched like he was going. Just a little bit behind on that throw over to first base.
Ground ball through the left side. Another ground ball base hit. Dozier is 2 for 2. Came into this game 1 for 21 against the Blue Jays for the season.
He's been swinging a red hot bat in the month of August. And he's showing you why. Single to right field his first time up, so the Blue Jays straighten out their defense. First time up, they had 3 infielders on the left side, straighten out the defense for a second time up, and he just pulls one through the left side. He's got that average up, Buck, over 270 now.
Yeah, and you keep getting ground balls. Sooner or later, you're going to hit one at one of the infielders, and you'll be able to get a double play. The Blue Jays have played good defense of late, committing errors in just 2 of their last 8 games. Joe Mauer, the first baseman, flying out to left field his first time up. Inside. Mauer, a career .310 hitter. He's 5th among active players in batting average. Miguel Cabrera has a wide lead over Jose Altuve. Cabrera batting .320. Altuve .313. Tied with Ichiro at .313.
How many active career 300 hitters are there?
Now there are 14, actually. Paul Goldschmidt and Dustin Pedroia are tied at 13th. They are hitting 300.3, if you will. They're tied.
On the nose. Albert Pujols, is he still a...
He's number 6.
Wow.
309.
There are some great hitters in this game, isn't there?
Well, it just shows you over the years when Cabrera can hit 320 for 14 years. That's pretty consistent. Yeah. Pujols has hit 310 over 16 seasons. Same for Ichiro, who is now 42 years old.
This guy at the plate right here has got a great approach. I mean, he is thinking left center field. Every now and then he'll pull a ball, but he stays in, and that's why he just flashed why he's such a good hitter with runners in scoring position. Just under 300 this season.
Ground ball. Stroman goes to second. Perfect throw to Tulowitzki. There's that double play. Stroman took his time and made a perfect throw to Tulowitzki, who was cutting across the bag from shortstop.
That had been a problem a little bit for Marcus. He's made a couple of throwing errors in his last few starts that have cost him some runs. No problem here. Takes his time, like you said, and threw a strike. You're taught as a pitcher, when you get these comebackers and it's a double play, throw it to the bag. Marcus threw it to the bag and let Troy Tulowitzki do everything else. Finish off that play. Gets a tough hitter in a tough situation.
This is the right fielder, Max Kepler. Kepler was retired on a bang-bang play at first 4-3 on a ground down.
Boy, the infielder is going to have to take note of how swiftly he can run and maybe shorten up a little bit. I mean, he can get down that line for a big guy.
0-2. One to nothing Minnesota. Little chopper, and Encarnacion will step on the bag, and that'll end the inning. No runs on 2 hits and a man left for Minnesota. We go to the bottom of the third.
Member of a travel rewards program where WestJet has a great deal for you. They'll match your status and treat you like gold. You can learn more at westjet.com/getgold, guys.
Thank you very much, Barry. And another good crowd at the WestJet Flight Deck this afternoon. It is a happening place Saturday afternoon. Go to a ball game with all your friends and enjoy the beautiful atmosphere here at Rogers Center. This is Devin Travis, his first at bat of the homestand. Devin's been dealing with an injured knuckle on his right hand. He's got it heavily taped. Batting 300 on the nose.
Been dealing with it for a while too. He said he originally heard it when the team was in New York.
Grounder to third. Poof. Schumacher, one away.
Keep your girl in my Tommy boxes.
Up next, number 22, Josh Tolley.
It's Junior J's this Saturday, and it's all presented by Boston Pizza. Thanks to our Junior J's announcer for introducing the players today. Just one of many fun activities taking place on Junior J's Saturday, presented by Boston Pizza. The young lady did a nice job of introducing Josh Tolley. It's been a rough season offensively for Tolley. That first home run he hit, first and only home run, came in his first at bat.
First swing of the season generated that home run off of Drew Smiley. I saw him around the batting cage today, and I said, hey, you got 2 starts in a row. You know, he's got today, day game after a night game, and then tomorrow with the knuckleballer R.A. Dickey on the mound. He says he's looking forward to getting some at-bats, consistent at-bats back-to-back days.
And Dickey will go to the mound tomorrow to complete this 6-game homestand before the Blue Jays head out to Baltimore to take on the Orioles. Yeah, it's really a challenge for Tolley, playing once a week, catching Dickey. So John Gibbons, who was a catcher himself, it's a twofold opportunity. Give Tolley back-to-back games and give Russell Martin back-to-back days off. Russell also DH'd on this homestand. Tolley gets a base hit. That's the first hit for the Blue Jays. Comes off the bat of Josh Fuller with 1 out.
Told you that Santana will pitch inside. He's not afraid to do that. He tried to pitch inside that time to Tolley and just yanks the ball into right field. Fastball up and in. You can see he fights it off, pulls the hands in, just yanks that ball into right field for the Jays' first hit.
So with Tolley aboard, Bautista will step in the box. He grounded out to shortstop his first time up. He goes after the first pitch and pops it over the screen out of play. Ground ball. Escobar at short, Dozier at second, back to first. Double play that'll end the inning and erase that single by Tolley. They'll go to the 4th. The Twins have a 1-0 lead, and here comes the ultimate cleanup crew. Brought to you by Home Hardware's exclusive line of the ultimate hard-hitting and tough-on-grime cleaning products. Seasons for the Blue Jays from 93 to 95. He had 315 as a member of the Blue Jays. He was an all-star in 93 and 94. And when you look at the 93 season, it's pretty unique in the way it finished.
The Jays had their first batting champ, John Olerud. Finishing second was Paul Molitor at 332, and then Robbie right behind him. That was 1, 2, 3 in the order in the American League. And Paul Molitor was telling us a story about that yesterday. He said when he came to spring training, he went up to John Olerud and said, "Hey John, have you ever thought about winning a batting title?" And said, you've got the great stroke, you barrel up a lot of balls, you take your walks, you hit the ball all over the place. And he ended up having a great year. Molly said, "I didn't realize he was going to listen to me. He said I should have waited a year because I would have won the batting title.
That Molitor at that point had come over after a long and successful career in Milwaukee and was a terrific player. Of course, has his place in the Hall of Fame.
See, those are the kind of things that veterans, just something like that in spring training. You say, have you ever thought about winning a batting title? You know, John Olerud never thought about winning a batting title.
No. Molitor had played 15 seasons with the Brewers before he came to Toronto in '93.
You know, that kind of influence of a guy coming over with 15 years in the big leagues and suggesting you have what it takes to win a batting title like that, I think just raises the game of John Olerud that year. And Ole had a great year.
Well, you remember how understated and humble John Olerud was, and always has been. So I'm sure when he heard that from the veteran Molitor, it really hit a nerve. Plouffe took the walk to start the inning. First walk that Stroman has issued this afternoon, and that's been a real positive for him. He has really cut down on the number of walks. Base hit, finds a hole. Rosario gets jammed. Now they're going to send Plouffe to third. The throw is not in time. Looked like Plouffe kind of decoyed the right fielder, Michael Saunders, as it didn't appear as though he was going to go first to third. Got to the bag and turned the corner and took off for third.
Yeah, he hesitated like he was going to stop at second base, and an outfielder sees that. One more time, base hit into right field. He just kind of slows down, and then he just takes off. And an outfielder sees that he's going to hold up, so you just lay back just for an extra second, and then you have to rush your throw. It's a good throw, but it's just a little bit late as Plouffe goes first to third.
Boy, that's a great.
They're going to look at this one, Buck.
Yeah, they're going to look at it, and Blue Jays feel like they may have had
came off the base
to review.
I think he came off the base. But that's a great veteran move right there by Plouffe, just deking the outfield.
Well, it's another great indication you don't have to be fast to be a good base runner. I mean, he went in there and made a definitive move as he was going to look at Saunders as if he was going to stop at second.
And then kicked it in gear. You can see Josh Donaldson hold the tag on there right there as that slide was a little messed up as he goes into the bag. Watch him. He slides in and see if the foot comes off of the base.
He is not in contact with the base. He was straddling the base when Donaldson makes the tag. Watch how his right leg comes off the base. The left leg is off the base as well. It'll be interesting to see how they call this. Donaldson had tagged him initially when he was on the base right here. Then he comes off the base, but he didn't tag him then.
I don't think he tagged him again. He couldn't keep that tag on him. You can see him go back to tag him one more time.
This replay review is powered by Samsung. They're going to take a look at it, obviously, in New York. And he indeed came off the base. He was totally off the base, but when Donaldson tagged him, he was on, and then he swiped at him and never touched him a second time.
One more time. There's the slide. He goes into the bag, and then as he starts to get up, he stumbles just a little bit and comes off of the bag, but there's no tag. He hits him right there, but he's on the bag. Now he is off, and I just don't see another tag before he gets back on the bag. Tough to overturn that one.
There was a review in the first inning on a Max Kepler ground out. Twins asked for the review. The umpires appear as though they have the call. There's the save sign as we expected, so the call on the field is upheld. So Plouffe with a good piece of base running ends up at third. First and third, nobody out. There are times in a game when you really grind for a strikeout. This is one of those times. And Sano, he struck out his first time. off the plate.
He also has what we used to call light tower power. He can hit the ball over a light tower. Tremendous power, but having some trouble right now making consistent contact at the plate.
Ground ball through the left side. Another ground ball base hit for Minnesota. Plouffe comes in to score. It's 2-0 Twins. Stroman's getting his ground balls today, but they're finding holes. For Sano, his 50th RBI of the season makes it 2-0.
6 hits already for Minnesota, all singles. And it seems like every one of them have found a hole.
Seeing eye base hits. Nothing really scalded, just placed very well. The leadoff walk, that's the problem. You get that leadoff walk on base and changes the whole inning. Escobar shows bunt and bunts it right out in front of the plate. It's a foul ball. Stayed right behind home plate.
One more time. First and third slider away. There's your ground ball. You got it off the end of the bat. This could easily go right at one of the fielders and it'd be a double play. Instead, it finds its way into the outfield. Another run for the Twins. They now lead it 2-0. And the inning is set up for a sacrifice right here. You got the right guy in terms of speed at second base. And a pretty decent bunter at the plate in Escobar.
Rosario's at second. Escobar swinging away. That's a base hit. That's down the right field line. Rosario's coming in to score. They're going to stop Sano at third. As Escobar showed bunt on the first pitch, it pulls a double down the right field line.
Where have we seen that? We've seen it already today. Santana faked the bunt, brought in Encarnacion at first base and slapped the ball by him. Escobar fakes the bunt, brings in the first baseman, and he slaps a double down the line. You can see here comes Eddie charging, and then he's got to put on the brakes, and that ball is fair. Extra bases.
Fourteenth double of the season for Escobar. Pete Walker out to have a chat with Stroman.
Super Slow-Mo Cam. Brought to you by Rogers 4K TV. Get closer to the action with 4 times the resolution of HD alone.
Minnesota has a 3-0 lead. They've scored 2 runs here in the top half of the fourth. They're trying to snap an 8-game losing streak. They've lost 5 straight on the road, and they've lost 8 of their last 11 here at Rogers Center. The infield is halfway. This is Juan Santana. Grounded out to the first baseman, his first time up.
They're halfway because a little bit slower runner is at third base. So you don't have to bring the infield all the way in, even on a medium ground ball. Minnesota's probably going to play, make the ball get through.
Danny Santana is on deck. Stroman knocks it down. He'll check Sano, keep him at third. Looked like he had it in his glove, but it came out of the glove, trickled to the back end of the mound. And Stroman made a good play looking at Sano at third before he threw to first.
Sano was coming too on that ball. Line drive, back liner back to the mound. He looks like he catches it. But then it pops out of his glove down the back side. Watch this one more time. Right back through the middle off the glove down the back side of the mound. And you see it very alertly checks Sano, the runner at third base, before he fires over to first.
The infield a little tighter now with Santana at the plate. This might be a situation where they gamble on contact. He's also a threat to bunt.
Yeah, he could lay a bunt down right here, and they can use that safety squeeze if they want to. But the way that Santana's been swinging against the Blue Jays this year, I'd let him go ahead and swing away.
Santana with a base hit his first time up, pulled it through the right side of the infield. Crawley's going to have a chat with Stroman. The Twins are a pesky bunch in that they put the bat on the ball, evidenced by the ground ball base hits. Stroman has just 2 strikeouts, and he has been averaging almost 12 strikeouts per 9 innings in the month of August.
They can't get him to fish for that breaking ball off the plate.
You can see their approach very short to the baseball, just trying to put it in play.
A lot of these swings look like their manager's playing. Paul Molitor was the same type of hitter. Not a lot of movement at the plate. Use your hands. Be quick and short, and don't strike out.
One and 2 to the number 9 hitter, Danny Santana. Just 1 out, runners at second and third for Minnesota. As we mentioned, the offense lately has not been a problem for the Twins, averaging nearly 6 runs a game over their last 23 road games coming into this game this afternoon. And during that stretch, they are 13 and 10. Popped up shallow center field. Pilar has it. Sanoa's tagging at third, but he'll bluff, and the throw will come all the way to home plate. Too shallow to take a chance with Dozier coming up.
Yeah, you don't want to run into an out if you're the Minnesota Twins. They get a hot hitter in Santana. Shallow fly ball into center field, and boy, if Marcus can get out of this with just 2 runs crossing the plate, success. Leadoff walk, single, double, and only 2 runs have scored so far.
Yeah, there are battles throughout the course of an outing, and you got to win this battle and keep these 2 runners from scoring. Blue Jays had 2 5-run innings on offense last night, so a 3-run deficit is nothing. Dozier is 2 for 2. Dozier has 76 RBIs for the season. That's 1 off his career high. He hit 77 last season. That's a fair ball. 2 runs will come in to score. Dozier with his 3rd hit of the afternoon. He's 3 for 3, and he has just set a new career high in RBIs.
Boy, and that one hurt. Second and third, nobody out. You get a comebacker and a short fly ball, and you're that close to getting out of it. And Brian Dozier spoils that for Marcus Stroman. Solid double down the left field line. He's 3 for 3. He's already scored a run. He's had a stolen base. That looked like it might have been a cutter that stays in over the plate, right over the bag. And 2 more runs are going to cross the plate. 4 runs this inning now for Minnesota.
And they have a runner in scoring position. 30th double of the season for Dozier. RBIs 77 and 78. Joe Mauer 0 for 2, grounded into a double play back in the 3rd. Bo Schultz loosening up, just recalled from AAA Buffalo this morning. He is loosening up down in the Blue Jays bullpen. That ball is slicing toward the seats and out of play. Dozier came into this game 4th in the major leagues in RBIs since June 25th. And he picks up 2 more here this afternoon.
What a couple of months for him. One of the highest OPSs in baseball in the month of August, and he's showing you why. We've got some guys who can swing the bat on this team.
Once again, reminding us all that it's all about pitching. You can have the best offense in the world. If you can't pitch, you can't win games. But today they had their best pitcher on the mound, Irvin Santana. He's been staked to a 5-0 lead. One and 2 to Joe Mauer. Pretty good pitch. Dropped that breaking ball on the outside corner, but didn't get the call.
Well, Joe Mauer's always had a good eye at the plate. That one, according to the umpire, just off of that corner. Can't throw much, can't throw a better one than that.
Mauer fights off that tough pitch. Blue Jays have just 1 hit against Santana in their first 3 innings. Josh Thole coming up with a 1-out single in the 3rd.
That guy keeps saying, keep scoring. I saw that offense last night for the Blue Jays explode. I need more cushion.
Well, we told you that the Twins scored 8 runs on 9 hits last night, but they were outscored 15-8. Ground ball. Tulowitzki at short, takes his time. The inning is over. But Minnesota scores 4 runs on 4 hits. They leave a base runner. They take a 5-0 lead.
James Hinchcliffe takes on a high-octane field in the conclusion of the Firestone 600 tonight on Sportsnet 360 or live stream on Sportsnet now. Hey, Buck, from your days as a manager, what do you say to a pitcher when he gets all those ground balls that normally would be outs, but they just find holes? Obviously, Stroman's going to be frustrated.
Yeah, he sure is frustrated. Not much you can say. He's getting basically some soft contact. They're not really hitting him very hard, but at the same time, you got to make some adjustments. I think the big surprise is that Marcus hasn't had more than 2 strikeouts at this point, given the fact that he's averaged nearly 12 strikeouts per 9 innings in August.
You know what you have to do? You have to remain positive. You have to tell yourself, hey, look, they're finding the holes right now. Just keep pitching, maybe throw up some zeros, give my offense a chance to get me back into this ball game. But, you know, those could easily 3, 4, 5 feet either way. Those are outs. But they found the hole, got to deal with it. Remain positive.
Donaldson grounds out, first out of the inning. And Encarnacion lined out to second, his first time up.
Well, you can see why Santana's been so hot in the second half of the season. Everything has been on the corner. He's used his fastball. He's used his slider, but he's made quality pitches. He has thrown 5 or more innings in 15 straight starts. You can count on this guy.
Yeah, we had talked about his ERA in the second half of the season. Now it's among the best, top 4 in the American League. And he's just one of those guys that comes out and throws strikes. And very simple approach. Fastball, slider, occasional changeup. And he'll give up his share of home runs because he's going to throw so many strikes.
Month of August, he's given up 1 home run. That's how good he has been this month.
Today, Santana making his 337th career start. He has over 2,100 innings of experience. He's had 5 seasons of 200 innings or more.
He's not a real big guy, but he's got a great delivery. Stays over the mound. He's got a great arm.
Encarnacion takes ball 4. Well, Pat, you talked about how good Santana has been lately. You see, after his first 12 starts, his ERA was 5.10, but a different story here in the second half of the season.
Maybe he cut his hair. Maybe that was it. You see in that shot right there, he's got the long flowing locks in the back. Those first 12 starts, ERA over 5 over his last 11. 179 earned run average. Opponents hitting just 202 off of Irvin in his 23 starts this season. He's only given up the 4 home runs. In fact, he's given up 1 home run in August. He gave up 2 home runs in July. And in his last 2 starts in June, he had only given up 1 home run. So keeping the ball in the ballpark and making quality pitches.
It's a high fly ball into right. Kepler coming in, still coming in, makes the catch.
We've been there from the start. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays, proud fan since 1977.
Down on the shores of Lake Ontario, a lot of fans out walking around, having a good afternoon here on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Michael Saunders called out on strikes his first time up. Blue Jays have had 3 base runners today. Donaldson and Encarnacion walked, only with a single. That's a fair ball. Down into the corner. Encarnacion is headed to third, and they're going to wave him home. Kepler had trouble getting it out of the corner. Encarnacion stands up as he scores. Max Kepler wasn't sure if that ball was going to hit the wall and carry him out onto the field, but it stayed true and went all the way into the corner.
And then he made a mistake. He tried to grab that ball with the bare hand instead of using his glove, and when he did that, he dropped it, and that's going to allow Encarnacion to score from first base. Michael Saunders is going to drive in his 51st run of the season on the ball down the line. He gets all of it and keeps it fair. The fans don't touch it. Now watch Kepler go in to dig it out. He goes with his bare hand, and that boot right there is going to allow Encarnacion to score. Right there, you always want to go in with your glove and pick up the ball, especially when it's moving like that. Go down, pick it up with 2 hands, use the glove, get the ball back into the cutoff man, and hold that runner at third base. Heads up play by Luis Rivera.
Very good play by the third base coach, waving Encarnacion home, because you get down into that corner and you think, okay, this is going to be a routine play, and they'll end up at third base. But once he saw Kepler reach for the ball and miss it, he picks up an RBI for Michael Saunders as he waved Encarnacion around third. Kevin Pillar batting with 2 outs. You know, the Twins were looking at the replay, and the only thing I could expect was they were looking to see if a fan had touched that ball down there, and that would have held Encarnacion at third.
Looked like a fan was there, but the ball went right through their arms. Thank goodness, because it gave the Blue Jays a run.
Everyone's scoring all the way from first.
Never want to take anything for granted when you're on first base and you're running first to third. That plays behind you. You got to keep your eye on that third base coach. Let him be your eyes. You just give him a good effort every time.
Pillar called out for the swing. He is out. That ends the inning, and Blue Jays leave a base runner at second, but they have scored a run, a 2-out double by Saunders. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio.
Baseball live on your phone and tablet with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Blue Jays and stay up to the moment at any moment with scores, news, live video game highlights, and much more. Download MLB.com at-bat. It's the #1 app for live baseball and a very handy tool as we get into September with all the pennant races.
Certainly a lot going on around the baseball world with the pennant races. Colorado has a 1-0 lead over Washington as they play in the top of the 4th in the nation's capital, and the Yankees have a 4-2 lead over the Orioles. The Yankees are sneaking up on people, and then one thing that's not happening, Gary Sanchez isn't sneaking up on anybody. 4 RBIs, 3 hits in last night's game. This is Kepler. He drives it down the left side. That's a fair ball, and it bounces out of play for a ground rule double. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Didi Gregorius would be called safe, and it's 4-2 Yankees, middle of the 4th in New York. Max Kepler with a leadoff double. Blue Jays haven't been able to retire that leadoff batter very often today. That's the 4th time in 5 innings that he's reached.
Just makes it a little bit tougher when that leadoff batter gets on. Dozier in the 1st, Santana in the 3rd, Plouffe last inning, and now Kepler here with the leadoff double.
Ball on the strike to Trevor Plouffe. He has singled and walked. Stroman has allowed 5 runs on 9 hits. The Twins have hit 3 doubles today.
Like Francisco Liriano, we were talking about last night, being able to throw that 4-seam fastball up just to change the eye level of those hitters, because the sinker's down and the slider is down. You have to be able to stand them up and use that 4-seam fastball up just to give them something different to look at. This time with 2 strikes, he swings right through it.
1 away. Popped up. Shallow left field. Upton was a long way out there. Tulowitzki goes out to make the play. Boy, Upton was awfully deep on the left-handed hitting Rosario.
And he broke back on that first initial movement on the swing. He saw the big swing from Rosario, and Melvin Upton broke back. But luckily it wasn't deep enough that Tulo could run it down at shortstop. And now he's got to come hard charging. He's not going to get there, so Tulo calls it off and makes the catch.
Miguel Sano had an RBI single his last time up. The Twins are already 3 for 11. They've had 11 at bats with runners in scoring position already this afternoon. They've stranded 3. Paul Molitor has to be very pleased with what he has seen from his hitters in the first 2 games of this series. They're having good at bats.
Good at bats, and they've been some tough outs. Snow's been bothered with a right elbow soreness. He's had some problem with that right arm. He broke an 0 for 24 skid earlier this week. He looks like he's one of those hitters that it's feast or famine. Lots of strikeouts, but when you make mistakes and he connects, he can hit it a long way.
He's just 23 years old. This is out of play. Missed the entire 2014 season, Sano did, with Tommy John surgery. He had that surgery in March of 2014. Don't hear that very often with a position player. We've had a couple of catchers that have dealt with that. Sano strikes out. Stroman leaves a runner in scoring position. Max Kepler gets the leadoff double, but he's stranded at second.
Big green comfy chairs out in the TD Comfort Zone, and today we welcome guests of TD and parents. It's almost time. Got to get your kids set for school, and Rogers has 5 great high-five deals for you, including offers on phones, tablets, data, and more on 2-year select share everything plans. Hurry into a Rogers store today, and guys, by the time we get back from this road trip, the kiddies will be back in school.
Blue Jays will go out on the road trip for 10 days. They played 9 games with stops in Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and New York. And for those of you thinking about the New York Yankees, Gary Sanchez has gone deep again today.
Come on.
His 11th home run. He's batting .405.
What were some of those numbers that we have seen about him? This guy's 10 home runs, 20 RBIs. First rookie in Major League history with 10 homers and 20 RBIs in his first 20 games of the season.
Only 2 players since 1920 have totaled at least 10 home runs and 20 RBIs in their first 22 games of their Major League career. Trevor Story and George Scott. So they're the other 2 outside of Sanchez. Story did it this season, of course. And George Scott got up to a great start. 10 home runs, 22 ribbies in his first 21 games in 1966 for the Red Sox.
Needed just 78 Major League at-bats for 10 home runs. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some special things going on around baseball with some young players. And don't take your eye off the Yankees. They're 5.5 games back. Upton strikes out. That's 4 strikeouts so far for Santana.
You know, at the trade deadline, I didn't think that the Yankees were going to make any kind of move. I thought we could have written them off saying that was it, but not so fast. 5.5 games back as we're getting closer to September. That's in the American League East.
Well, if the Yankees hold on and beat the Orioles this afternoon, they'll close ground on the 3rd place Orioles. They'll be 3.5 games behind. They're 3.5 games behind Baltimore now. It'll drop to 2.5.
And they're 3.5 games behind the American League wild card race.
That's really going to get crazy.
Yeah, you're talking 8 teams who are still in it. That's just for the 2 wild card spots.
The Yankees, the Royals, the Astros, the Mariners, and the Tigers are all on the outside, but they're all within 3.5 games of that 2nd wild card spot. Boston and the Orioles have the first 2 wild card spots. They are secure right now, but there are a lot of teams in the hunt.
You know, it's going to be interesting in the month of September. You go basically back into your division and everybody starts beating up on each other. You know, maybe when that happens, a team can get hot and just sneak in. Somebody like Kansas City. Kansas City is just 3 games back of the wild card. Never thought that would happen.
No, they were pretty much out of it too.
Yeah.
Travis hits a high fly ball. Kepler looking up into the sun, calls for it and makes the catch. Travis is retired.
This Blue Jays Rogers 4K broadcast is powered by the Samsung 4K SUHD TV.
Junior Jays Saturday here at Rogers Center. The WestJet flight deck is jammed as always. Another crowd over 40,000 to watch their Blue Jays. Jays are a game in first place in the AL East. Josh Thole has one of the 2 Blue Jay hits this afternoon. He singled with 1 out into 3rd. Hits this one right to Dozier. Santana has retired 4 straight. The Blue Jays retired in order in the bottom of the 5th. Will go to the 6th. Minnesota with a 5-1 lead. Guys are a game ahead of the Boston Red Sox for first place. You look at the record last year after 128 games. They had the same record. They were in first place. They actually had a half-game improvement over this year where they stand, but they went about it in a much different fashion. Last year was all about the offense. This year it's all about the pitching.
The pitching, and they got that momentum. They got on a roll right around the trade deadline and just steamrolled into the playoffs last year. Still don't think the Blue Jays have played their best baseball yet this year, where they have combined pitching, hitting, and defense all at the same time. And you know that feeling when you come to the ballpark and you say, we're winning today. This team is playing really well. We're pitching well. We're hitting well. We're going to win today. And I don't care who you're playing. I haven't seen that yet from the Jays this year.
Last year they had two 11-game win streaks. That's a ground ball up the middle. Tulowitzki is there behind the bag. Throws out Escobar. One away. Nice range by the Blue Jays shortstop.
You know, and some of the coaches that I talked to, I mentioned that to them, and they're in agreement. They said, we haven't seen our best yet this year. Some of that has to do with some of the injuries. They haven't had their full complement of players in the lineup. What did you say, 4 times all season long?
Yeah.
The normal, regular lineup?
The 8 regulars that play most of the time. Of course, that includes Devin Travis, who didn't start the season until the end of May, coming back from his shoulder surgery. Devin is back in the lineup after missing 4 games with the hand injury.
Tell you where you are in the season right now. You're just getting real close to September. The team that gets hot for 2 weeks, I think, is the team that's going to take control of this division.
Okay, how do you get hot this time of the season?
I play good. Just come in. And I think that's what's encouraging for the Blue Jays, because we haven't seen that yet this year. Seems like you watch baseball throughout the summer and you go, oh, that team is really hot right now.
Travis to his left throws to first. Santana's reached time.
Then you see another club that's they have their hot streak, and it's usually right around 2 weeks. A team that goes 11-3, something like that. Blue Jays haven't done that yet.
I think you do that on the strength of your starting pitching.
Sure.
I think the starters go in, they shut down the team, and that's why the Blue Jays have played so well on the road this season. They are 34-28 on the road. The old adage in baseball, you play 500 on the road and you really make hay at home. Well, the Blue Jays have won both on the road and at home.
Well, they've got good starting pitching, and I think it's going to get even better when Aaron Sanchez comes back. And that's supposed to be next week sometime. Still got a hit. And we're seeing some signs, especially last night, that the offense is starting to come around. Yeah, you're going to hit your home runs. I'm talking about good at-bats with 2 strikes, and you pick up those runners in scoring position. You have tough at-bats, and you're a tough out. I think if you do that and combine it with the pitching that they have, they can go on a nice little roll for a couple of weeks.
Danny Santana, number 9 hitter. There's a good strike. There are only 4 teams in the American League that have winning records at home and on the road. Bo Schultz up for a second time. Boston and Toronto have winning records home and road. Cleveland and the Texas Rangers. That's it.
Cleveland leading the Central, Texas leading the West, Toronto leading the Central, Boston right on their heels.
Boston has lost 3 in a row.
I bet you if you look at the stats, the pitching staffs of those teams are going to be up towards the top also.
Boston.
Toronto's number 1 in pitching. Cleveland's number 2. Boston's in the middle of the pack.
Santana strikes out. Stroman has retired 6 in a row. Now it's back to the offense. Tries to close the ground on the Twins. Top of the order will bat when we come back. Jose Bautista, then Josh Donaldson and Edwin Encarnacion. The Blue Jays have just 2 hits and they trail 5-1.
Great giveaway day tomorrow as we have Blue Jays Red Shirt Baseball Day presented by Honda. The first 20,000 fans will receive a red Blue Jays baseball shirt. It is Canada Baseball Day. It's the Blue Jays and Twins finishing up that series. The gates will open at 11 a.m. And guys, we are going to see a sea of red in the stands tomorrow.
It's always a popular day, and the Blue Jays plan to wear red tops, and similar to that red top you see right there on your screen. According to Stats Inc., there have been 251 players born in Canada that have played in the major leagues. There are 3 Canadian-born players in the ballpark today. Andrew Albers of the Twins, Russell Martin, and Michael Saunders.
And it's growing
Dramatically.
year after year. Yeah,
dramatically. The success of the Blue Jays recently has certainly had a lot to do with it. Robbie Alomar's tournament 12 also contributing to the increased interest in baseball across Canada. Jose Bautista jumps back from an inside pitch. 2-1. Blue Jays need something going right here against Santana. They've managed just 1 run on 2 hits today.
he has done a good job of pounding those righties inside.
That's a fly ball to left. Santana is there. Bautista's retired.
A lot of things have changed, but one thing hasn't. Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays, proud fan since 1977.
You know, we were just talking about how well he has done pitching the right-handers inside, and when you do that, you just can't extend through the baseball. Watch how Jose just can't get the ball out in front when you pitch the ball inside there on those right-handers. He's done a good job of that this afternoon.
Yeah, and there are so few pitchers that pitch inside in this day and age. When a guy can master that inside pitch, he can have a good outing. Most of the hitters take the outer 3 quarters. That's where they want the ball away so they can extend their arms.
And they can follow the ball. They can stay on it. Santana, he's a throwback. He's pitched a long time in the big leagues. He's had a lot of success. He knows how to pitch, and he knows he's got to pitch inside against these right-handed batters.
3-0 to Donaldson. After Bautista flew out to left, Donaldson walked in the first inning. Blue Jays need base runners now as they're down by 4. Big bats in the order facing Santana this inning. A 4-pitch walk. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Great scene before the game as Kevin Pillar received the first pitch thrown out by young Zaki, his pal from Hawaii.
His favorite player is Kevin Pillar. That was so cool. He's able to come out here and throw out the first pitch to KP.
1-1 to Encarnacion. Edwin has lined out and walked. Santana has walked 3. He's allowed just 2 hits. Swing and a drive deep to center field. This ball is up and gone. Here come the Blue Jays.
That's what you like to see. You like to see a runner on base before the big man comes up. With one swing, he gets 2 more runs back on the board. Home run hitters have that ability to recognize breaking ball, and they can just wait back a split second longer and then time up that swing perfectly like Edwin did right there and hit it a long way. Breaking ball from Santana. Watch Edwin stayed back for just a split second, lets it break over the middle of the plate, and then crushes that ball to left field. Hands back, and now they're through. And a great finish. Home run, number 36.
RBI 103 for Double E. His career high in RBIs, 111 last season. Well within reach of that. Ground ball up the middle, get through ball. Base hit for Tulowitzki.
Well, you can't place it any better than that for Tulo.
Taking a page out of the Twins book.
Right over the mound. No chance for the shortstop. No chance for Dozier to get it. That'll be an infield hit.
Still nobody throwing in the Twins bullpen. Saunders had an RBI double in the fourth. He drove in the first Blue Jays run. The buzz is back.
He has handled the bottom of the lineup this afternoon against the Blue Jays. It's a big at bat right here. You can get Michael Saunders on, maybe pull a ball through the right side right there. Blue Jays play first and third. Maybe they can scratch out another run.
The bottom four spots in the Blue Jays lineup today, 1 for 8. Goalie with the single. Pulled to first. Mauer goes to second. Tulowitzki's out. Throw back to first. It's a double play. That'll end the inning. But the Blue Jays get 2 back. They've closed to within 2 of Minnesota. Edwin Encarnacion. A 2-run shot to deep center field. Home run number 36. The starter here this afternoon had a rough 4th inning. Gave up 4 runs in the 4th inning on 4 hits. But he settled down, put up 2 zeros before he leaves after 100 pitches. 6 innings in total. 5 earned runs on 9 hits. He walked 1 and struck out 5. But the Blue Jays have made it a 2-run game with Edwin Encarnacion's home run.
The big hit in that 4th inning was that 2-out double by Dozier that plated those 2 runs. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. He got 2 outs, but then the 2-strike hit by Dozier plated those 2 runs, and that's been the difference in the ball game. Now it's up to Bo Schultz. There are his numbers, just recalled today after Aaron Loop was sent out after the ball game yesterday. 10 games this season for Bo Schultz. He's got a good arm, good fastball, good slider.
Bo Schultz pitched last on the 1st of August down in Houston. He and Ryan Goins had come up. That was that 14th-inning game that Marcus Stroman started. Schultz came in and pitched the 8th inning and had a good outing. Faced just 3 batters through 11 pitches. That was his last big league inning. Brian Dozier's had a perfect start to his day. 3 for 3, hits this one right to Tulowitzki. He is 3 for 4. Bo Schultz needs to throw up a quick 0 here and get the hitters back up at the plate.
Yeah, so that momentum stays. You feel it starting to shift over on the Blue Jays side. Bo's allowed only 2 earned runs over his last 10 innings with the Blue Jays. This is his 4th stint with them. He's going to face their toughest hitters here in the 7th inning.
First baseman Joe Mauer's 0 for 3. Ball and a strike. Minnesota with 5 runs on 9 hits. The Blue Jays 3 runs on just 4 hits. Neither team has committed an error. Foul tip into the catcher's glove.
A little bit more power coming out of the bullpen with Bo Schultz from the right side. His fastball, we've seen him upper 90s this year. At times he will get beat with his breaking ball, but he's got a great arm.
Two and two now.
Heck, when he first came up the first time this year, remember that in Chicago? He hit triple digits with the White Sox. He was fired up that day, maybe because he was back in the town where he went to college.
He went to Northwestern in Evanston.
Man, he was bringing it that day.
Here's the 2-2 to Mauer. Strike 3 called. You could hear the umpire call strike 3. 2 outs. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Nine to 4, and the balls are flying out of Yankee Stadium. There's no question about that. Castro with his 18th, Sanchez with his 11th. Aaron Hicks has hit his 7th. And the Yankees have a 9-4 lead. Dylan Bundy roughed up for the Orioles, charged with 5 runs on 7 hits in 4 innings.
Chris Davis has a home run, doesn't he? For Baltimore? I just saw he went deep too. It must be flying out of Yankee Stadium.
Chris Davis has hit 2. Ooh. He has 32 on the season. Trumbo hit 1. He's got 39. Manny Machado hit 2 last night. He's got 31. 1-1 pitch to Kepler. The Orioles now have 3 players with 30 or more home runs. The only other team in the majors in the last 4 seasons to boast 3 30 home run hitters, last year's Blue Jays.
That was almost 3 40 home run hitters for Toronto.
Outside to Kepler. It's now 3-1. First time the Orioles have had 3 30 home run hitters in their franchise history.
That's hard to believe.
Isn't it?
The great sluggers that they have had, Hall of Fame type of sluggers.
Boog Powell, Frank Robinson, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken. A lot of great hitters over the years, but they haven't had 3 30 home run hitters until this season. 3-2. Bo Schultz with 2 outs trying to close out the Twins in the top of the 7th. Max Kepler, we have mentioned he was born in Berlin, and there have been 44 German-born players in Major League history, but most of those players were U.S. military families that were stationed abroad. They were born while their parents were on military service. Another 3-2 pitch. Kepler takes ball down and away.
Get a hit of color during Canada's Color Expert Sale. Only at Home Hardware and Building Center locations. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Saturday afternoon at the ballpark, not far away from Lake Ontario, just a couple blocks up the street. Trevor Plouffe, the third baseman, he's 1 for 2 with a walk. He goes after that first pitch. Got to keep your eye on Kepler at first. He can run a bit. He's 5 for 5 in steals.
This wouldn't be a bad time for him to try and steal. They've already got 1 stolen base this afternoon. That was Brian Dozier in the first inning. That led to a run for Minnesota.
Paul Molitor was talking about Kepler, and he's really impressed with his physical skills, but he says he's still learning how to play baseball. He started out as a soccer player, started playing baseball when he was 7, but it was very limited in Germany.
It's a big lead.
It's a huge lead. Not running. Kepler became a baseball fan by watching the Yankees. His family purchased a channel that had U.S. sports on it, and he would stay up until the wee hours of the morning to watch the Yankees. His favorite player was Derek Jeter.
No surprise there, huh?
The Twins signed him as a 16-year-old, and once he signed, they brought him to Fort Myers, Florida, where he finished his high school.
I'll tell you, I don't care where you are in the world. If you can play baseball, they're going to find you.
0-2 to Trevor Plouffe. 1-2. If you think Kepler is athletic, he comes by it honestly. His mother and father are both ballet dancers. They were ballet dancers. His mother was born in Texas. She was American. His father was Polish, and they met in Berlin.
Now's the time to go.
Yeah, 1-2 is a good running count. You figure that Schultz may throw a breaking ball. Might be a tough pitch for Tolley to handle.
And it gives him a little bit more time to try and steal.
Not running. Now it's 2-2. Minnesota has a 5-3 lead. We are in the top half of the 7th. Bo Schultz trying to keep the Twins off the board here in the 7th. Now it's a full count.
Wow, he is not missing by much. Look at where all those pitches are, just off the plate. Some good at bats.
Kepler, of course, with 2 outs, will be moving on this pitch. 3-2 pitch to Trevor Plouffe. There goes the runner. Driven to right and deep. Saunders back at the wall. It is gone. An opposite field home run off the bat of Trevor Plouffe. His 9th home run of the season after a prolonged at bat. And the Twins get those 2 runs back in a hurry.
Boy, fought back from 2 strikes to get it to even. He homered in last night's game. That was his first home run since July the 1st versus Texas, and now he homers this afternoon, and it's a big one for Minnesota. 2 quick outs, then a walk to Kepler. He lost him after he was ahead, and now he lost Plouffe. Drills that ball to right field.
Everything in that at bat was away, so he stayed on that pitch. Plouffe drove it out of the ballpark to right. 2-strike approach. He's a big guy, and he got enough of it to knock it out of the ballpark. It's only his 16th hit of the season to right field. Encarnacion knocks it down. Schultz is there, and the inning is over. But Minnesota with a big 2-run home run with 2 outs off the bat of Trevor Plouffe. Blue Jays scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th. Twins get him right back on this home run by Plouffe.
Jays on Sportsnet. Presented by Honda. A lot has changed in 40 years, but one thing hasn't. Honda, proud fan since 1977. Official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Junior Jays is Saturday. Always a great event for the kids here at Rogers Center. The kids get to come in and have a lot of activities inside and outside the ballpark. Great way for parents to spend a beautiful afternoon with their children. Right now, the Blue Jays are down by 4. Irvin Santana has held them in check. 3 runs on 4 hits. Blue Jays were climbing back into it, and then Trevor Plouffe hit a 2-run home run top half of this inning. Kevin Pillar, after missing yesterday's game, he was ill, back in the lineup today.
Yeah, you always want to stay close. A bloop and a blast. That's where you want to stay away. But that home run now, Blue Jays back down to by 4 runs. So they got to chip away. Get that first guy on and string together some good at bats against Santana. You got to figure that he's getting close to the end of the line here.
Pillar does a good job of going down and hitting that breaking ball into right. A leadoff single. First time the Blue Jays have had the leadoff batter on this afternoon.
That'll help. Breaking ball down and away. How about that for plate coverage for Kevin Pillar? He just scrapes it off the top of the dirt for his first hit.
Fifth hit of the afternoon. Now it's Melvin Upton Jr. He's 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Bouncing ball near the bag. Flip to second for 1. That's all they'll get. Escobar flipped to Dozier for the force out. That'll bring to the plate Devin Travis batting with 1 out. Brian Presley, the big right-hander, starting to loosen up for Minnesota as Santana has now thrown 94 pitches. Snap throw from Santana, and Upton's back standing up. Blue Jays are running out of time. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. The Yankees are beating the Orioles in New York. Boston will play Kansas City later on tonight. David Price against Danny Duffy. A terrific pitching matchup.
That one's on Sportsnet. I know what I'm going to be doing tonight.
Two 2-0. Only other game as we speak, Colorado and Washington tied at 3-all in the bottom of the 5th in Washington. Popped up down the right side. Kepler coming over, but it's back out of play into the seats. Devin Travis missed the first 4 games of this homestand. He was dealing with a hand injury. He injured it initially in New York.
Yeah, he was telling me today around the batting cage. I said, did you hurt that in Cleveland, the curse of Cleveland? Remember, that's where he got hurt last year. He said, no, I actually did it in New York. He thinks it was on the on-deck circle. He likes to swing a big, heavy weighted bat. And that might have had something to do with it. With a donut on it, he was swinging. He felt something in his finger. So he finished out that series against the Yankees, and then the series in Cleveland. It was just barking too much, hurting too much. He missed the LA series in the first game of this Minnesota series.
Ball in the dirt. The Blue Jays have scored 3 runs here this afternoon on 5 hits, and that has been a problem for them lately. Last night when they scored 15 runs, it was only the 9th time in their last 18 games they've scored 3 or more runs. And they're stuck on 3 again this afternoon. There goes Upton, fouled out of play. Double barrel action for the Blue Jays. The big right-hander is Jason Grilli. The lefty is Brett Cecil. Aaron Loop has been sent back to AAA Buffalo after his appearance in last night's game. Blue Jays continue to shuffle their bullpen. Full count to Devin Travis. There goes Upton, ball 4. Travis walks. Upton was running on the pitch. So now there are 2 aboard with 1 out.
Well, that's how you get it started. A tough at bat for Travis to work the walk. And now this is a huge at bat, and I think that's why Paul Molitor's out to talk to his starter. You get Josh Tolley and he gets on base and they turn that lineup over, and you've got to face Bautista, Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Tulowitzki. He knows how important this at bat is right now.
Yeah, that was interesting. Managers don't often go out to the mound to talk strategy to a starting pitcher. Generally, they'll send the pitching coach out. The Molitor wanted to go out and deliver the message firsthand. Presley is ready down in the Twins bullpen. Josh Tolley has hit the ball hard twice today. He's singled and lined out. Upton's at second, Travis at first. Good rip by Tolley. This could be the at bat of the game. Tolley gets aboard, brings the big bats to the plate. And it'll probably get Santana out of the game. That was pitch number 103 for the right-hander. Edwin Encarnacion had a 2-run home run in the 6th. Michael Saunders had an RBI double in the 4th. Blue Jays haven't been able to put much together. They had 15 hits last night. They have 5 hits so far this afternoon. Right on the inside corner.
Josh thought that ball was inside, but he's right on top of the plate looking to pull something to right field. Now he's going to choke up on that bat. Get a good 2-strike approach.
Breaking ball taken for a ball. It's 2-2. Bautista is on deck. The message to Santana from Myler may have been, hey, focus on Josh Thole. This will be your last guy. Don't let him get away.
Managers will do that. Let them know, hey, the end of the line is coming near. Give me everything you got right here. I don't know if it comes to it, if Paul Molitor wants Santana to face Bautista for a 4th time. He might want to show him something different, give him a little bit more of a fastball out of that bullpen.
Ball 3 to Thole. It's a full count. Melvin Upton hit a fielder's choice. He's at second. Devin Travis walked. 1 out. Full count pitch to Thole. Bautista on deck. Ground ball. Mauer backs up, makes the play. The only play he has is to first, and Tolley's retired. The runners move up, but now there are 2 outs.
Boy, what a beautiful play by Joe Mauer. He had to give some ground to get himself a good hop. Not bad for an ex-catcher. That ball looked like it was heading out into the outfield for Thole.
Well, Molitor's still in the dugout as Bautista steps up to the plate. Watch Mauer and how he plays this so well.
Gave some ground, backhanded, and then straightens up and throws a strike. This looked like it was going to be a hit, a bad hop or whatever, but he plays it perfectly and records a big out over at first.
Well, Molitor is going to let Santana face Bautista for a 4th time this afternoon. Jose is 0 for 3. Bautista's got a terrific eye.
He's hit a couple of home runs against Santana in his career, so he knows all about him.
He also can lay off those borderline pitches. Donaldson is behind Bautista. 2 balls and no strikes. Three and 0. Bautista takes ball 4. That'll load the bases. That's going to do it for Santana. He walks Bautista. Molitor out. Makes the call to the bullpen. So Bautista, the second walk of the inning issued by Santana. That loads the bases for Josh Donaldson. And Donaldson represents the tying run. Ryan Presley coming on. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Donaldson will bat. Out of the game, and he turns things over to Ryan Presley, who's made 61 appearances this season.
That's going to break a tie for the American League lead in appearances, 61. That's also a career high. He leads for Twin. He's also second in the American League in relief innings. He's been their go-to guy, and he has delivered. 6-5 with a .350 earned run average. He's one of 4 players who've been Rule 5 on this team. Presley's got a good arm. He was originally with the Red Sox. Big fastball and a power curveball.
Bases loaded. Upton, Travis, and Bautista aboard for Josh Donaldson. He takes strike 1. Donaldson has the only 2 Blue Jays grand slams this season.
Hey, I'll take a grand slam right now. Who wouldn't? But right now, just a good at bat. Even a bases clearing double. Some things just keep this thing moving for the Blue Jays.
Donaldson has walked twice. He scored after walking in the 6th. Josh had a 2-hit game last time with a home run. He's homered in 2 straight games. Ball in the dirt. Nice play by the catcher.
Santana's done a nice job on those balls on the dirt this afternoon. He doesn't try and catch it. He just tries to block it, keep it in front of him. One more time. Hard breaking ball away. Just get a piece of your body and stay in front of that ball.
Santana created a very good angle to block that breaking ball. Here's the 1-1 pitch to Donaldson. Line drive in the gap. Kepler going to cut it off. 1 runs in. Here comes Travis, and Donaldson has gotten the Blue Jays right back in the game.
Boy, what an approach at the plate by Josh Donaldson. He's a career .439 batter with the bases loaded. 3 grand slams and 70 RBIs, and he shows you why he's hitting over 400 with the bases loaded. What an approach. Fastball down and away, stays right on top of that. Pretty good pitch and a better swing by Donaldson to get those 2 runs right back for the Blue Jays. Terrific. No overswinging right there. Stay right with it.
Encarnacion homered in his last at bat. Strike 1. Ball on a strike. Edwin has homered twice in a game, 3 times this season. Encarnacion visibly upset by that strike 2 call.
I think what he's upset about is Santana didn't even catch that ball. So if he can't catch it, how is it a strike? But it looked like it crossed the plate. It looked like a slider that was down on and caught the plate.
A ball and 2 strikes. Runners at the corners and 2 outs. Another ball in the dirt.
Another good block, too. You can see he's not trying to catch the ball. He's just trying to get his body in front of it and take it off that chest protector. One more time. Drop to the knees. Just block it with some part of your body, that time with the chest protector. Nobody can advance.
Fouled off the catcher. Everything down and away in this at bat. Presley's done a nice job of keeping the ball away from Encarnacion's power. Edwin's home run went to center. His 36th of the season. Arms in position. He gets a piece of it. Boy, Presley's pitching him tough. Look at all those pitches down and away.
That's that power breaking ball where he has been able to average a strikeout an inning, down and away. Hard breaking ball.
Bounced foul.
Got a fastball to hit right there. He had a breaking ball last time and had a great approach to it. Recognized it out of the hand of Santana. Waited back that fraction of a second longer. Let the thing break over the plate and got all of it to left field.
Edwin's home run against Santana, his 8th in the month of August. But a ball. So Donaldson running at first will get a running start. Bautista's at third. Jose walked. Donaldson with a 2-run single. Ball to the gap. Donaldson's got a chance to score. There goes J.D. The ball is foul off.
Everyone asking if that ball was a strike too. You got to figure he's going to throw him a breaking ball.
Presley in relief of Irvin Santana. Gave up a 2-run single to Donaldson. Battling with Encarnacion. Another full count pitch. Determination
from both of these competitors. Neither one of them wanting to give in.
Score. Donaldson's headed for third. Encarnacion delivers. It's a 1-run game. What an at-bat for Edwin.
He battled and battled. Got the ball. The count in his favor at 3-2. They throw him another breaking ball, and a good RBI guy delivers in those situations, and Edwin does it again. Breaking ball. Cruz took a couple of steps towards the line because that's the go-ahead run, and it backfired on him. Crowd getting into that hit. Yeah.
Kloof needed that big glove at third. He took that 1 step toward the line, and it went off his glove for a base hit. Neil Allen, the pitching coach, out to talk with Presley. Big RBI for Edwin. A 3-ribby afternoon for Double E.
And some heads-up base running right there by Josh Donaldson. You mentioned he was off on the 3-2 pitch. When the ball ricocheted off of Kloof's glove into short left field, Josh was able to go to third base. Now he can score if there's a ball in the dirt.
Blue Jays scored 2 in the 6th. They've scored 3 here in the 7th, and it's a 1-run game. Twins have a 7-6 lead. Tulowitzki is 1 for 3. Breaking will look like a backed up. Ball on a strike to Tulowitzki. Presley has given up a 2-run single to Donaldson, an RBI single to Encarnacion.
And that'll finish the day for Irvin Santana. He's going to be charged with 6 earned runs now on just 5 hits.
Tulo looks like he's got him zeroed in. Didn't even offer it that borderline pitch.
I think he wants to try and get Tulowitzki out with a breaking ball. So Troy might be sitting on that off-speed pitch.
Line drive to the second baseman. That'll end the inning, but 3 runs in for the Blue Jays in the 7th. Presley gives up the 2-run single to Donaldson, the RBI single to Edwin. Jason Grilli coming on to protect this ball game, keep it a 1-run game. Minnesota has a 7-6 lead. Another big hit by Edwin drives home Bautista.
Is a must if you want to keep up with your Toronto Blue Jays. The Sportsnet app lets you stay up to date with the latest scores, breaking news, game highlights, and analysis of Canada's team. Plus, never miss a single pitch with our in-depth live game tracker, available on iOS and Android devices. We've got ourselves a new ball game, Buck and Pat.
Sure do, Barry. Thank you very much. We move to the 8th. New pitcher into the ball game for the Blue Jays will be Jason Grilli, the big right-hander in the 8th inning. That's been his inning, and he's done a terrific job.
This time he is behind, but you got to bring him in here to throw up a 0. There are the numbers in 52 games for Grilli. ERA is now under 3. He last worked 2 days ago in that LA series. A very clean inning.
Breaking ball for strike 1 to Sano. Grilli has not allowed an earned run in his last 10 innings of work. Sano drove in a run in the 4th with a single. He is 1 for 3, couple of strikeouts. High pitch driven into center field. Pilar will play it on a couple of hops, and Sano has another leadoff base hit for Minnesota. They've been able to get that leadoff guy on.
Yeah, every inning but 3 of them this afternoon. Got to throw up a 0 right here after your offense has gotten you back into this game.
Grilli working in his 32nd game with the Blue Jays. He's been great. Coming in this game, a 0.81 earned run average. It's been terrific. Check that. His ERA is 1.52.
Still pretty good. There are the numbers right there. A 144 batting average, and he'll pick up his share of strikeouts.
Two 2-0. Escobar is 1 for 3. Came into this game batting .367 over his previous 9 games. He had an RBI double in the 4th. Blue Jays turn to double play in the third. They can use another one right here. Nice play by Tolley. Blue Jays have turned 131 double plays with the double play they turned in the third. Troy Tulowitzki took the relay from the pitcher Marcus Stroman back in the third and completed the double play over the first. 1-3-6 double play. It's a full count. Catcher Juan Santana on deck. He's 0 for 3. He's grounded out 3 times today.
That's why you got to get this guy right here. You got to get Escobar after that leadoff hit. Keep that double play in order for the Blue Jays.
That's going to be out of play.
Might have swung at ball 4.
Grilly, appearing in his 32nd game with the Blue Jays, has a strikeout in all but 5 appearances. He's been consistent with his ability to rack up the strikeouts with that high fastball and his very good breaking ball.
He's also given him that emotional boost. Also, he gets fired up out there.
Your club's in first place. It's the last weekend of August, and if you can't get fired up now, you need to check your pulse. Another pop into the seats, out of play. Breaking ball, he got a piece of it. Really, with a 3-2 breaking ball, and this Twin team, they haven't really taken too many big cuts. They just put the bat on the ball. Got to stay away from those strikeouts.
Escobar's putting up another fight right here. He's seen 8 pitches in this at bat. Got to throw the better one right here.
Big strikeout for Grilly. Went right back to the heater and strikes him out.
You know, told you that he can give you an emotional lift also, coming in and picking up big strikeouts. That time he blows it by him, and look at the reaction from Grilly. Loving that right there. Just gets you fired up, doesn't it?
It's an emotional game, and so often players hide their emotions. Not Jason Grilly. Juan Santana, we mentioned he's hit 3 ground balls today. First pitch breaking ball. Oh, 0-1, Sano at first. 0-2.
You can hear Jason grunting on every one of these pitches, especially that fastball. reaching back for everything he's got.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Fly ball into shallow left field. Upton calls for it. He makes the catch there. 2 outs. There's that effort. You could hear the grunt from Grilly as he unloaded that last pitch and got the pop out. Second out of the inning. Danny Santana, number 9 hitter.
Still a tough out right now. They got 3 really tough outs coming up. Santana, Dozier, Mauer.
Two outs to no. Still at first. Really crossed him up with that first pitch breaking ball.
He's always had a good breaking ball. So Jim Leland moved him into that bullpen when he was with the Detroit Tigers. He said it was the best thing for his career. Said his breaking ball got even better. Slider started really snapping off.
That fastball ran in on his hands.
Boy, not a bad idea right there. He threw him a couple of breaking balls to get ahead of 0-2. Tried to slip that fastball by him, and Santana was able to just flick that ball away. Now you can throw that slider again.
Santana was all over that high pitch. It was upstairs, but he had a good cut at it. Grilly still has the upper hand. It's 0-2. He's got the option of throwing that fastball again, or he can drop the breaking ball in the dirt. Santana's in a swing mode right now.
Yes, he is. That's why I think that breaking ball will be a good one. He didn't come close to hitting the first 2 that he saw.
All of these pitches are setting up for the breaking ball. He's throwing a couple of high fastballs, and I think he's trying to finish off this at bat with the breaking ball. You mentioned now Santana didn't look good on the breaking balls. High fastball ripped foul. We have seen some extended at bats from these Twins hitters. Pete Walker might be calling for Osuna.
Or Brett Cecil.
Cecil.
There's some lefties coming up.
Yep.
Down the line here.
Mauer and Kepler. 1-2, 2 outs. Brett Cecil was up earlier in the game. Dozier is on deck, and then behind him a couple of lefties, Mauer and Kepler. I don't think the Blue Jays want to see Dozier come to the plate in this inning.
No, I just as soon have him lead off next inning. Two and 2. What a battle between Grilly and
Santana.
All of the experience right now that Jason Grilli can muster, he's got to use it to get this guy out. He's not striding at all. He is just trying to pick up the ball and just keep it in play. Just hit it where it's pitched.
Jason Grilli wins the battle against Santana. He strikes out 2. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. The Blue Jays are down by a run. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn in the Samsung broadcast studio. He gave up a leadoff single and then shut him down. He stranded the runner at first, and what great emotions from Jason Grilli.
Well, we talked about it, that this kind of emotion can really rub off on his teammates, and he gets fired up as he comes in after striking out Santana. That was a big at-bat, a tough at-bat. He didn't stop there. I mean, he went right down the line when he got into that dugout, firing everybody up. Let's see if it works here in the bottom of the 8th.
Blue Jays are down by a run. It'll be Saunders, Pilar, and Upton here in the 8th. Ryan Presley got one out in the 7th. He allowed base hits to Donaldson and Encarnacion, and then got Tulowitzki to line out to end the inning. 6 runs for the Blue Jays, all charged to the starter, Irvin Santana. Ball on the strike to Saunders.
A little bit different back into the bullpen for Paul Molitor since the last time we saw this team. It's like Presley is going to be setting up.
Two and one. The Blue Jays have had benefit of 5 walks in this game, all issued by Santana. 4 of those walks have come in to score.
Oh, that's a nasty breaking ball right there. 90 miles an hour with some late movement on it.
Saunders stays back and fouls it off to stay alive. Popped up, shallow center field. Escobar out, the shortstop is there, and he makes the catch. Saunders is retired. So Kevin Pillar, who had a leadoff single in the 7th, did a tough pitch against Santana, slider down and away, singled into center.
Boy, that got it all started for the Blue Jays. A very tough at bat for Pillar. He's got to do it again against another guy who throws just as hard.
Presley's in his 4th season with the Twins.
He didn't give up a home run last year, Presley.
Roberto Osuna, he has had a long rest. He's not pitched since Saturday in Cleveland. Two 2-0 to Pillar. You mentioned last year, Presley, no home runs in 27 games. He's given up 7 this season. Ah! 2-1 now. We're in the bottom of the 8th. The Blue Jays trail 7-6. They've been out hit 11-7 by Minnesota. Fair ball inside the bag at third. Pillar's around first. He's headed for second. And he'll get there with a stand-up double. His 29th double of the season.
You know, some teams choose when you're in the later start parts of the ball game to guard the line. Some teams choose not to guard the line. The Twins pulled Trevor Plouffe off of third base, and it cost him. Normally no doubles down the left field line for your third baseman, but he's off the line playing the percentages, and he gets burned. Pillar with the double. He's now in scoring position.
His 29th double of the season. Pillar is 2 for 4. He's gotten 2 big hits late in this game. A leadoff single in the 7th, a 1-out double here in the 8th. Melvin Upton Jr. He reached on a fielder's choice his last time up. 0 for 3. Pillar is getting a big lead at second.
They've got some outfielders who can throw. Rosario in center field can throw. Kepler in right field's got 7 outfield assists.
There's a strike. Brandon Kinsler, right-hander, up throwing. Presley has given up 3 hits since coming into the game. 1-2 now to Upton. Melvin came into this game hitting .318 over his last 12 games. Driven in 8 runs over that stretch.
Good low ball hitter. Presley looks like he likes to keep the ball down.
Little flare into right. That drops and goes past Kepler. All the way to the wall. He couldn't circle the bases. Pillar ties it up. And here he comes. He's going to score.
Play by Melvin Upton. What an at-bat. On a tough pitch, he's a good low ball hitter, and he fights off a 2-strike pitch down and away. And Max Kepler, the youngman, you said he's still learning the game of baseball, and he made a huge mistake.
You can't dive for that ball. You got to make sure it doesn't get past you. And he dove, and it allowed the Blue Jays to take the lead.
He then went back to try and get it, and kicked it away from the defender. That allowed Upton. I think he was just going to make it to third base, and that was it.
Travis goes after the first pitch and flies out to right.
Here's the dive. You got to concede the one run, the base hit. As Upton, that is a tough pitch. He stays right with it. There's a sinking liner into right field. He dives for it, and it gets by hit. Now, it looks like Upton's going to make it to third base, but when Kepler goes again to get it, he falls down and kicks it away from the defender, and that allows Melvin Upton to circle the bases with the go-ahead run.
8-7 Blue Jays. Josh Thole drills this one to left. That's going to get down and go up against the wall. It bounces over the wall for a ground rule double. Thole's second hit of the afternoon. What an inning for the Blue Jays.
Some action late for the Blue Jays. Held him up to one more time, slices the ball to right field, sees that the ball gets by him, and now he's thinking inside the park, home run right here. Picks up his third base coach. Luis Rivera says, I'm sending you home. They kicked it around, and like that, he breaks the tie with that base hit.
For Upton, it's a triple and air charge to the right fielder. Presley's out of the game, and the Blue Jays have the lead. Rogers Center is rocking. The Blue Jays have come from behind and taken the lead here in the eighth. Melvin Upton Jr. with his first triple as a Blue Jay, his third of the season, his 32nd triple of his career. And now the lefty Taylor Rogers into the game.
3-0, 296 earned run average. Doesn't throw very hard, but he doesn't walk too many people either. Lefties hitting just 206, righties 288. He's going to have to face the top of the order, Jose Bautista, with 2 outs and a runner at second base. What a finish the Blue Jays are giving the Twins this afternoon.
Twins had a 5-1 lead after 4. Now they trail 8-7. Bautista jumps back from an inside fastball. Jose walked and scored the 6th run of the ball game for the Jays in the 7th, part of a 3-run inning. If you don't think emotions has a lot to do with this game of baseball, just think back to the Grilly strikeout and the way he walked off the field and fired up his teammates.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. He has that type of effect on this ball club. Get fired up.
Bautista hits it to left. The catch is made. The inning is over, but the damage is done. The Blue Jays scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Melvin Upton Jr. an RBI triple. Kepler dives, it gets past him, goes all the way to the wall. Upton circles the bases. Brought to you by Honda, official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays, proud fan since 1977.
You know, we normally show you balls that went over the wall for the drive of the game, but we got to show you this one more time. The dive by Kepler, he misses it. Pilar scores, and they're off to the races. Melvin Upton around second to third. The ball is kicked away, and there it is. The drive of the game, Melvin Upton with a triple and an air. He breaks the tie, and hopefully Blue Jays can hold on and win it with the drive of the game.
The Blue Jays had a heartbreaking loss in Cleveland with back-to-back home runs, including an inside-the-park home run. That was a triple and an air that allowed Upton to circle the bases. Now, here is Roberto Osuna. He hasn't pitched since last Saturday when he picked up his 28th save.
He was on the mound when he gave up that inside-the-park home run. Ezequiel Carreras take it over for Michael Saunders in right field. But he came right back the next day against the Indians and shut him down to pick up that 28th save.
The Twins have lost 8 straight games. They've lost 8 of their last 11 here at Rogers Center. Dozier takes the slider down and away. It's 1-1. It'll be Dozier, Mauer, and Kepler. Top of the order facing Osuna. Dozier's had a big day. He has established a new career high with 78 RBIs. He had a 2-run double in the 4th. Osuna making his 5th career appearance against the Twins. He's 2 for 2 in save opportunities. Three and one to the leadoff man.
He's kicking at that mound like he's not real happy with his landing foot. You mentioned he hasn't pitched for a week. And maybe a little rust as he faces the first batter here in the 9th.
Six upstairs. It's a full count. Osuna is tied for 4th in the American League with 28 saves. Pop back out of play. The Yankees still lead the Orioles 12-4 in New York. Top of the 8th inning at Yankee Stadium. Kansas City is in Fenway to take on Boston later tonight. The Blue Jays lead the AL East by a game.
Dozier's having some good at-bats today. The key to stopping Minnesota is keeping this guy off the bases. He comes in here as hot as anybody in the month of August.
3 for 4 this afternoon. Scored a run and driven in 2.
Don't you love it? Roberto Osuna's always looking for ways to beat you. And he, I think, sensed that Dozier was on his fastball, so the next best thing he can do, hesitate just a little bit. Give him something different to look at. Freeze, hold it right there, and then throw the fastball.
This whole game of baseball is about timing, and Osuna using that hesitation. Punches out Dozier for the first out here in the 9th. Joe Mauer's 0 for 4. 1-1 pitch to Mauer. Line to the second baseman, 2 away.
You know, when he blew that save in Cleveland that we were just talking about, he got beat with his secondary pitches. He got beat with a changeup, and then he got beat with a slider. He was bringing the heat the next day against Cleveland, and he's doing the same thing here this afternoon against Minnesota.
47,485 here in Rogers Center. Max Kepler committed the error that allowed Melvin Upton Jr. to score. Upton with a triple, and he scored on the air by the right fielder Kepler. The Blue Jays have trailed 5-1, 5-3, 7-3, and 7-6.
Good pitch. Can't sleep on this guy. He's got some power, too. He's at 12 home runs since the beginning of July.
From Osuna. He's well rested, as we mentioned.
He's just getting loose.
Really is in line for the win. Osuna strikes out Kepler, retires the side in order in the ninth, and the Blue Jays with a comeback win in dramatic fashion.
And you got to give kudos to the bullpen. Grilli comes in, gets an inning, it gives up a hit. He had 2 punch-outs. Osuna finishes it off with a couple of punch-outs. The offense never stopped coming back against Minnesota, and they win in dramatic fashion with 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Kevin Pillar had a couple of key hits. Melvin Upton Jr. tied it up and scored the game winner. Thanks for watching. The Blue Jays will cap off this homestand tomorrow. Now stay tuned. Here's Blue Jays Central, Jamie and Greg.